Welcome to Finding Your Balance, a mental health podcast. My name is Tiffani Fritzsche. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm joined here with my friend Kirk Fasshauer, licensed clinical social worker.
Hello.
And today we have somewhat of a different topic. We are going to be talking about the pathways to becoming a counselor.
Right. You know, we talk about, there are different pathways to becoming a therapist, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. You know, you're a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Mm-hmm. I know for me, I had my undergrad is in psychology. My master's degree is in social work. Mm-hmm. And originally I didn't want to be in social work at all.
Really?
Yeah. No, it was during my undergrad that I got a job working in a residential inpatient that worked with the 14 most dangerous male adolescents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So during that period, I learned about the different therapies and things like this, along with my education. So I connected with people who did this and really made a good connection with somebody who was my mentor. He was a family therapist. That's why I ended up with my master's focusing on family therapy. But he suggested, after he and I had several conversations about careers and things like this, he's the one that suggested social work. And I looked at him and I said, social work? Because in my mind at the time, and what most people think of social work, is more the child welfare end of things. Did not want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I didn't want to be involved in that. And, so when he suggested, I was kind of surprised. But then he explained to me that, you know, you've got a systems thinking perspective. Okay, so systems theories look at a whole process, and it's not just the focus on the individual, but the environment within which the person is, which is the focus of clinical social work, is the person in an environment as opposed to the inner person. So you do some of the inner person, but the outer experience is just as important. So he also said it was a much more marketable degree, and you know, social work has this huge lobby and things like this to get on insurance panels and things like this. And it's a much different kind of marketable degree. So I ended up, when we moved on from Massachusetts and moved into New Jersey for a while, that's when I got back and again got my another job working outreach primarily, and then started looking at schools, and Rutgers University was highly recommended for social work. Ended up going there and working on my clinical focus there, because there's different focuses with social work. You can do an administrative track, you can do the medical track, you can do school if you want to do school counseling, and there is of course the child welfare track as well, and then there's the clinical track, and I chose the clinical. I did some of the administrative stuff too, but clinical was my main love and passion, and my big focus being family therapy because of the influences. So that was kind of my journey. Also, several years in between, because I got my undergrad, and then I worked in the field by the time I went to get my master's degree, I was 7 years already in the field.
Really?
Yeah. So I had a wealth of experience going into class, and I was like, oh, master's, and I'm thinking, oh, the classes are going to be hard, and they're really challenging, and then I did a few classes as a non-matriculated student. So I went to my first non-matriculated class, and I remember the moment I was like, what am I so worried about? This is nothing. Because to the experience.
You had the
right. I had the background going in there, and it's like, oh, I'm learning the theory. And it was interesting. I had some conversations with my professors, and they kind of knew, because the way I asked questions and the way I would respond to certain things and answer their questions, they kind of knew I had been working in the field for a while. So it was interesting. Mm-hmm. More of a dialogue back and forth, and it was interesting. Fellow students, grad students, some of them coming right out of school, but their undergrad going right into master's. They didn't have the field experience. They had all the book knowledge. Mm-hmm. that was fresh. What was the experience like from you?
So very different.
Yeah.
So my undergrad degree was in community relations and journalism, or public relations and journalism. And so not clinical at all. In fact, quite the opposite. However, there's so many transferable skills because public relations and journalism, a lot of it is how do you read a room? How do you assess what people are hoping to obtain, right? Reading people and really just connecting with them, because in order to get a story, in order to get someone to talk to you, you have to be trustworthy and you have to create a safe space. So a lot of transferable skills, just in a different way. And I didn't know that I wanted to go into counseling at first. We had, growing up, several personal tragedies, and I will say in that time, there wasn't a lot of mental health support in that area. None was ever recommended. It just wasn't a thing. People didn't really talk about family counseling or support or therapy in the world where I lived at that time. And so, I did the work and I got the support that I needed. And I always thought back in that time, man, I wish that someone had come to me and asked this, or if only someone had asked this question to my family, maybe this would have helped, kind of looking back.
Right.
And then I kind of put that in the back of my mind and went on with my life. And so I went to college. I got my undergraduate degree in public relations and journalism. And then I tried to get a job in that world, but that's when all of the newspapers were really going digital. Right. So not perfect timing. And then I got an opportunity to get a job on campus at a local university working in the tutoring center. And that, again, brought me back into the world of people, getting to know them. I spent some time doing retail, just different, jobs. And I learned a lot about working with different people. And I learned a lot about expectations and about how do you manage when there's a conflict, when people are upset around you, how do you de-escalate, all those like transferable skills, but not in mental health. And then I was able to go to graduate school. That opportunity kind of came up out of nowhere. And years ago, the dream that I had of, man, I wish somebody had asked this question, or I wish, this resource had been available, it kind of came in front of me as, what about if you could be that person for somebody? And so that's what propelled me to apply for a professional counseling graduate program. And it was so interesting because I had forgotten all those things. And then once I started the program, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, I remember this.
It brought me full circle.
Right?
And so I got my master's in professional counseling. And then I went back after I graduated and got a certification in marriage and family therapy. So we kind of ended up in similar areas, right? Family, but in very different ways. When I started the graduate program, I had no clinical experience. I had never had a job in that field like you did. I did have a lot of experience, being a camp counselor or volunteering or, mentoring kids after school, things like that, but nothing so formal. And then a part of the graduate program was getting an internship. And that was my first real clinical experience. And actually, a lot of my intern hours, I did under one of your programs.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's how we met. And I will say that was one of my best experiences because it gave me the opportunity to jump into community mental health while having the safety of the people around me to keep me going in the right directions. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better experience. After I graduated, my track was maybe different than yours. To pursue an LMHC, not only do you have to graduate with an appropriate degree. And LMHCs, I think that the degree path is a little bit different. There's a little more flexibility in the degrees that we can get.
Right.
For clinical social work, they're pretty strict.
Yeah.
And so for mental health counseling, you can go look on the Florida Board's website to see which degrees are appropriate. But for me, I had a master's in professional counseling. That was fine. And then I had to get connected to a qualified supervisor. And so after graduating, I spent the next 2 years obtaining clinical hours, course while also under the supervision of a qualified supervisor. We would meet weekly, and I would bring her, the information, that I kind of had been going over with my cases, like, this is really hard, I'm dealing with this, guide me. And so she guided me for 2 years as I would bring clinical dilemmas to her, but also ethical dilemmas, also just the ins and outs of what does it mean to be a therapist? How do I manage family and life and stress and boundaries? And so for 2 years, I received qualified supervision, and then I took my test. And I passed the test. I finished my hours. You put everything in the mail, and then they give you a license number.
Then you wait.
Yeah, you wait forever.
Wait forever.
And then you're official. And I will say, once you get that license number, there's something that happens where you're like, all right, I guess I'm official now.
Right.
But then there's the panic of like, oh gosh.
I'm official now.
Right? Because, working with people, I think that you don't know what you don't know. And I think the sign of a true clinician is knowing that there's wisdom in a council of people. So even though that qualified supervision is over, I continue to surround myself with people I trust, that as things come down the road, I have a council of trusted people that I can lean on for that advice, because you never know everything.
Correct.
So,
you can't know everything.
Was your pathway a little bit different for licensure?
Well, I want to go back to something you said.
Yeah.
You started off with journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I did not start off thinking, psychology is the way I wanted to go.
Really?
I started off in computer science.
Oh, that's right.
So my original undergrad degree was in computer science. And for 2 years, actually a little more than 2 years, because I had an opportunity in high school, senior year, to start college courses in my chosen major at the time, which I was heavy into computer science back then. And so I went into I took two courses in computer science while still earning my high school diploma.
Wow.
So I had college level courses in this. Now they have those on a regular basis. Back then it wasn't a regular thing. It was something new they were trying. The combined high school, college, the collegiate level kind of thing. But then when I got into school, of course, you get your own freedoms and things like this. The first couple of semesters, I really did not know computer science. I enjoyed it. I tinkered with it quite a bit. It was going to be my focus. Somewhere along the way, I just did not find joy in it as much. I found more joy in being with people and connecting with people, and that's what drew me to psychology, and took off from there. So my undergraduate years were a little bit extended because of that. Once I hit the ground running with psychology, it just started to really make sense, and it seemed to be a really good fit. And like you said, there's an internship that happens in undergrad. That's where I got my job, actually. So I went to a coffee to connect for an internship. And what ended up happening was I ended up getting a job, because rather than getting an internship, I got a job.
Nice.
Which was exciting and scary at the same time. So I started off as a psych tech on a unit, the unit I talked about. And so I did that for a while. And I remember sharing with friends, hey, I got this job. They're looking for people and want to come join us. And actually, that was eye-opening for a lot of folks who were in the field and were very focused on doing counseling and stuff like that. They ended up changing their major because of the experience they had on the unit.
Really?
It didn't have such a positive experience. They were like, I don't think this is for me. But I stuck with it. I rather enjoyed the interaction. Even there were some tough spots in it for me. But I ended up holding strong. So just because you're entering college years, if you're listening and saying, well, I'm just starting off, I'm not really sure where I want to go. The freshman year is a year to kind of figure that out. You're a lot of things are changing for you. But if you're starting to feel like this is more of your area, you want to start taking 1 or 2 courses in psychology, and then really start to focus on human development, abnormal psychology. People tend to love that course a lot. And then you get into figuring out, is it psychology I want? Is it social work? Is it sociology or some other type of human service related field? And begin to check out those experiences. Volunteerism is big if you're interested in that, or maybe even start to work in the field like I did. Now, opportunities might be limited as a result of your degree level, but you get your feet wet where you can. Yeah. Volunteer for a hotline, work at a shelter, maybe volunteer at a hospital, or maybe there might be some opportunities for folks to start to get exposure and see if this is really what you want to invest in, quite honestly, because we invest a lot in our education. And
it's not too late. I know a lot of people that, like, they start, an undergraduate. I didn't. I know people who they've had an entire career and then they decide they want to do something different. And so then they start over and go back to school. And so I think there's a lot of pressure, especially on freshmen and sophomores. You have to know right now what you want to do with your life. And some people do know right now, and some people, they're not quite sure.
Right.
And your advice of take a class, see if it clicks, see if it's something that you like. You don't know sometimes until you're exposed to something new if that something new is going to be for you. And you just have to keep going, right? The next best thing. And then eventually you're going to find where your passion and your skills align. And if that is the world of mental health, one piece of advice I would give is that there's so many different types of jobs in mental health. And like what you were talking about, even just in social work, how many different variances of degrees. And so what I love about community mental health and what I really love about Peace River Center is people start with us and maybe the specific job they start with isn't quite right for them. Well, then they try something different. There's so many different avenues. I love working with kids and families. Like, that is what I love. I have a lovely coworker who, she does not love working with kids and families. She loves working for the adults. We constantly have this friendly rivalry of like, the kids are the best. And she'll come and say, no, the adults are the best. And so that's fine. I have a lot of coworkers, in community mental health, and they work on the recovery side, right? We have some work on more of the care coordination side. There's so many different sides of social work and mental health. And so I think the trick is give yourself the opportunity to learn about it. And internships are a great opportunity. Like you said, volunteering is a great opportunity. It's a lot easier sometimes to get experience when you don't get paid. Right? So you can try it out.
So balance it out with a job that you can survive with and volunteerism, right?
But that is a great start. And then I would say with mental health, everything that I've done has built upon the next thing. And so I had a professor say one time that time spent in preparation is never wasted.
Right.
And so I look back and I'm like,
wise words.
Should I have gotten that journalism degree? I should have done this, or I should have done this. And I look back and everything that I've done really set me up for the next thing. And I didn't see it until I was past it. And looking back, you're like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I needed. The experience that I gained from that volunteering or from that internship, it was real hard, but that experience prepared me for the next thing.
Right.
And so I feel so equipped and so capable in this season because of all those very random, strange experiences that I went through.
Exactly. They're very random at first, and then you slowly start to see it kind of weave together. It's cool. It's kind of a cool thing.
And we talked in earlier episodes about, finding the right therapist for you, and every therapist is different. Well, all of our pathways in becoming a therapist makes us that different person. And so that's why you've said before, if you try therapy and you don't get that fit, well, try a different therapist because they're so different, and every therapist comes to the table with so many different experiences. I did not know that you had computer science experience. Yep. And so somebody's going to come, and that's going to be the perfect rapport building that connects you because of your shared experience or your shared interest, or just the experiences that you've gone through have made you the right person for that client.
Right. Part of the computer science is being able to look at systems and work with systems, and that's why systems theory I tend to gravitate to, and family therapy and things like that.
System-based,
It's all systems-based, so that's where, I kind of see those patterns and can set up the flow charts.
Fascinating.
Yes, right? So, So starting off, look at where you are in your undergrad. Doesn't totally define the next step. The next step is master's degree. So as you get into, finding out what you want undergrad-wise, then the next step would be to earn a master's. You can step into the field with a bachelor's. There's not a lot of movement or opportunity, but you can find some of those opportunities. Community mental health centers tend to allow that kind of level. But then if you want to go to that next step, looking at a master's degree would be the next thing, whether it's clinical mental health counselor or a clinical social worker, a marriage and family therapist as well, or even a school counselor. I mean, the counseling starts to broaden its horizons. And even as you're going through your master's, some people start to look toward the next level, which is doctorate degrees. But you look at, once you get into your master's, you get more into technique, a lot more into ethics with regard to it, and really doing assessments and doing some therapy. And then depending on the degree you get, that becomes, you start to prepare for the licensure. That's where you can start to really practice on your own or with a group. So you get the book knowledge and all of this, and you get the field experience. And once you have your master's, now, as you mentioned, you had 2 years post-master's, same here for clinical social work, 2 years post-master's under the supervision of somebody with a licensed clinical social work degree, talking about ethics, working on cases, and struggling through those fine-tuning of what you learned in school, in the theory, and then being able to finally take that exam, because that's in the state of Florida, that has changed a couple of times. You could take it early, right after you got out of school at one point, and then one time it was, and then you had to wait till your supervision is over, and now I think it's kind of in the middle, where it's like 18 months after your master's degree you can take it. So figure out what it is for you in whatever state you're in to sit for those licensure exams. And those exams we're not talking like tiny little exam, it's only going to be an hour. These are 4-hour exams.
They make grown men cry.
They make grown men cry. Yes, they do. And so you do that, you get that supervision under your belt. And that can be, like I said, that supervision can be anywhere from 2 to 3 years long, depending on your focus level. And sometimes, depending on what's offered through maybe getting some work in the field. Sometimes, like Peace River Center, if you work for Peace River Center, that supervision is paid for. It's a benefit for working with us. If not, you're ending up paying for a qualified supervisor to be with you for that next 2 years or 3 years.
And you have no choice. You have to have it.
You have to have it, exactly, in order to get through. And then once you pass the state exam, yay, there is celebration. Believe me, there is celebration. Because, again, that test is no walk in the park.
The exam is it's varied. It goes over the diagnostics. So we diagnose out of a book called the DSM, and so you have to know all of the diagnostic criteria. In addition to that, you have to know about ethics and group ethics and the laws and rules. Exactly. You sit down and you're not sure which questions you're going to get. And the other thing that's I think that was the most stressful part to me was with my test, it's recorded, and so there's cameras watching you take it. And so the whole time I'm thinking, okay, how many times am I touching my face? How many times am I doing this? Because they're watching you, and they're watching you, so they're ensuring that you're not, cheating. But I was not cheating, but I was more nervous that they were just watching me at all. And so it was stressful, and I had to put out of my mind, okay, you just have to pretend that no one's watching you and just take your test like you were here by yourself. And I took it, and it's timed. You only get so much time to do it.
That's right.
And I was, thank goodness, able to take it. I passed it the first time, and the weight of relief that lifted off my shoulders. Yeah. And I don't know how it was for you, but we received our test scores immediately.
Yeah,
so we took it, we walked out of the testing room, and then the person at the front, gave me a piece of paper, and it felt like an eternity when that paper was printing. But we got it, and after that, I was able to, continue practicing as a licensed clinician, and I'm, still a licensed clinician. Now I'm able to serve as a qualified supervisor for interns coming up, and so I'm able to serve for interns pursuing their licensed mental health counselor license, but also licensed marriage and family therapist license. I'm duly qualified. But I would say it's been such an enriching process to see it come full circle. So now I'm on the other side, and I am, counseling or supporting interns who are getting their license. And it's kind of surreal because not too long ago, I was the student.
Right. Exactly.
And I still feel like a student a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I agree. You especially with some of the new changes that have happened, both in the law and kind of the new models of therapy. It's always good to hear them from the students because I'm like, oh, I'm learning new stuff, which is great. But yeah, I'm a qualified supervisor for licensed clinical social work as well. So it is interesting how it comes full circle. You have that experience, and some of the things I learned in my supervision I bring to the table with my supervisees. Yeah, it can be very rewarding, challenging at times too, because not everybody is cut out to do the work. And as qualified supervisors, we can kind of help either guide them into the profession or guide them out.
Well, it's our role, I think, sometimes to be gatekeepers, to make sure that those gates, that the people who come through those gates to be on the other side are prepared and ready to walk through that gate.
Absolutely.
And not everybody is, even when they finish their degree and even when they finish their hours.
Right. So, and I've had a few students who are about to finish their master's degree and say, I'm not really sure I still want to do this. I'm like, my God, that investment you've made. I mean, you can at any time change your path.
Right.
There's no limitation to that, but I just think of how long it took me. I do not take tests well. To sit for a 4-hour exam, oh my God, my anxiety was off the chain. And it also fed into the fact that it took me a while to sit for the exam, even well beyond when I was qualified to do so. But it was around the time, because there was a time when you did not get your test results immediately. You had to wait a couple of weeks.
Right.
I would have been climbing the walls. So I was grateful that I got the results right away, because then I knew, okay, I did well or I did not do so well. And if you don't do well the first go through, you can go back and take it again. Still remaining under supervision. You remain under supervision until you get the little state license in your hand. So still knowing that, though, it was a good safety net, knowing that I could take it again. I didn't really want to, because the anxiety going into it was, but I passed my first time as well. I was like, oh, such a relief. You're right. It's such a relief to know that, yay. And then it doesn't stop there, because every year we have to make sure we hit certain marks of, educational units that we have to have on both sides, the licensed clinical social work and licensed mental health professionals. We all have to maintain a certain standard as far as education goes, and there's certain classes we're required to take, and then ones that we've got some room, but we need to have so many units per year. Just showing that we're trying to stay on top of it. So your education doesn't stop.
Right.
Once you get the degree. The degree is the foundation for the house. And then you slowly start putting the framework together. So really think of your bachelor's level as kind of the structure for the slab or the foundation of your house. The master's degree is kind of really the formation of that foundation and the beginning of the framework. And then the work experience and the licensure supervision is really putting the tuning pieces to your house. So you're really building this so that you have that opportunity. And try out everything, because for fresh out of the gate, you're not going to get the high job. You're going to get the entry level job, and you have to kind of work your way up a little bit. Again, understand the expectations of the field you're going into and what you hope to accomplish and what you want to accomplish. So I hope that helps guide some folks through the process as they try to figure out their educational pathway into becoming a therapist. It can be done. There's lots of rewards with it. There's some pressures and boundaries, certain things you have to do, certain goals and objectives you do for the structured, so it's standard throughout the country. Because the rules and regulations here aren't different from any other state. It's, they have to maintain them. That creates the standard for across the board. So hopefully this information was useful and helps those that are trying to make a decision on where to go. And thank you for joining us.